Hey, it's me, John, and I'm doing something a little different than ever. Because a lot of you who listen to Cinemaholics, the podcast, you don't usually get to see us. And you still won't. You won't see Will Ashton. He's not here. This is because I'm setting this up as a way to talk about something that I haven't been able to talk about on the podcast in much detail. And that is The Boys Season 2. And the reason I want to talk about this in a kind of like a vlog format is because I have a little bit of time. And I figured, okay, this is the way to do it then if I have minutes. So, The Boys Season 2. Now, if you want to read like my full review of this thing, this show that just hit Season 2 on Amazon, you can definitely check that out on thespool.net. I will put that little link for that in the description and all that fun stuff. And if you're curious of what I'm talking about, I do a weekly movie podcast on this channel. Usually it's just audio only. I do that with Will Ashton, review all the new movies. And, we usually steer away from these releases that are shows, series, because we're called Cinemaholics. We want to be consistent. We actually had somebody complain once that, hey, it's Cinemaholics. Don't talk about, shows so much. And that was a bummer. I wanted to talk about shows, but we couldn't. Regardless, this seemed like a good way to talk about The Boys Season 2 in a little bit more detail outside of the main show on a channel that we definitely want to keep growing, that we're seeing enthusiasm for. And so we just, want to do something a little different, shake things up. So let's talk about it. Okay, so The Boys is a TV show. I don't know if you still call them TV shows anymore. They're just kind of like shows. Like, what's TV these days? But regardless, it's on Amazon Prime Video. The first season came out last summer. And if you listened to Cinemaholics back then, I did talk about the show at that point, and I was so enthusiastic about it. I really dug the first season of The Boys. The premise is that you have a group of superheroes who they're kind of like the Justice League and like the Marvel Avengers, but in a universe where they're actually like total a-holes. They're total jerks. Nobody likes them in real life because they're sociopathic and they're owned by corporations. Everything about them is a brand. If you ever like watch a Marvel movie or a DC movie and you have like superhero fatigue, the show is sort of designed to subvert what we like about those movies. It makes fun of how superheroes are a commodity now, how pop culture has sort of made the whole superhero comic book thing go from being like an underdog, very nerdy, geeky thing into being a very mainstream, very accessible thing. And, inherently, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I like Marvel movies quite a bit. I like a bunch of the DC movies as well. And I like superhero things. But what's fun about The Boys is that it does something different with that premise. We don't actually follow the superheroes as the main characters. Instead, we follow a cabal of human characters who don't have any powers, who see this group of Justice League-esque Justice Lords, if you want to reference that whole Justice League comic book storyline, who are obviously abusing their power. They're obviously corrupt. And this cabal of like freedom fighting dudes, because they're the boys, decide that they're going to take him down. They're going to knock out the Seven, is what their name is. The Seven, it's kind of a play on Unite the Seven from the DC marketing and all that fun stuff. This is based on a graphic novel. I'll make sure I get their names correct. I actually have it right here. But yes, Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson are the ones who did the graphic novel, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, came out in like the mid 2000s. Been out for a while. It's been a thing for a minute. And the cast includes Carl Urban, who is the main boy, the leader, who recruits this guy named Huey, who his name escapes me. Actually, Jack Quaid. Great guy, great actor, especially in season 2. He recruits him along with Laz Alonso and who else? And Tomer Capone. And they decide that they're going to take down the Seven together because Huey, played by Jack Quaid, something really bad happens to him. And he's like, I can't believe this happened. What am I going to do about it? And Carl Urban's character, Butcher, iconically goes up to him and is like, well, we're just going to kill the Seven. And there's more to it than that, of course. The Seven is headlined by a Superman / Captain America-esque guy, super Boy Scout, at least the marketing says he is, played by Anthony Starr. His name is Homelander. And we have Chase Crawford as a sort of misogynistic, rapist, Aquaman kind of character. And we have Erin Moriarty as our sort of like surrogate character. Not really surrogate character, but she's the only member. She's a new member of the Seven, and she's the only member with like an actual conscience. And she joins the team, and from there we see what unfolds. So at this point, I'm going to talk about season 2. And season 2, I have to sort of give away some minor things. So you probably shouldn't keep listening, watching. I'm so used to that. If you don't want to know anything about season 1 in more detail beyond what I just mentioned. So season 2 kicks off, and Butcher is presumed dead. And Huey is kind of like, well, I guess I'll lead the team now. They don't really have a choice. They're kind of in the outs. The world is after them. The FBI, the CIA, VOD Enterprise, or International, VOD International, they are all hunting the boys. And so they have to lay low. And we have some subplots come up where Kimiko might know somebody who is considered one of these super terrorists / super villains. There's a whole interesting, compelling, but also very disturbing storyline about the way villains and terrorism is like marketed as a way to basically advance political agendas. I'm sure people watching that will be like, yeah, okay, it's about what I expected. And from there, we also have Homelander, who's like, I'm a dad now, so I'm going to just take that in all the disturbing directions we can anticipate. So we see him sort of try to like be a dad to this young kid, Becca, who is obviously like not having any of it. These are some really tense scenes. I couldn't get enough of them, honestly, even though I hated every second of it because the suspense whenever Homelander is on screen is just so palpable. And we have a new member of the Seven to replace Translucent. That's Stormfront, played by, I think her name is Aya Cash. To fact check myself on that, something along those lines. And their whole thing at this point is like the Seven is in dire straits. Homelander has sort of lost the Stillwell, who was the person who was really like in control, who was the glue. But now we just have Giancarlo Esposito's character as Edgar, the CEO of Vought, who kind of has to take the reins. And he does. From there, keep saying from there, that's annoying. So other than that, Homelander, despite being under the thumb of Edgar, feels like, it's his team. He's going to do all of the terrible things necessary to keep it together while the boys sort of regroup and try to figure out, okay, we know this Compound V thing exists. We know what the Seven is up to at this point. How do we keep these guys at bay while also not getting caught and killed in the process? And I would say that once you get to episode 3, I think the first 2 episodes, like I said, it's regrouping. We're sort of getting back into the swing of things. We are resetting what this show is. We're resetting some of these character arcs and the stakes. It's not that exciting things don't happen in the first 2 episodes. It's more of like it's a little bit slower. We don't have a lot of that progression that it was really more fast moving in season 1. But then we do get to episode 3, which I think that is the part of season 2 where you can just tell the writers are like, this is where we're unleashing hell. We are just going to go all the way with this premise. We're going to go all the way with these characters in the best way we know how. And that's what happens. And it's such a deliberately joyful episode. It's also very ridiculous. And I can't emphasize enough, the thing that I like the most about this show, especially in season 2, is how it continues to surprise. It continues to just push the limit of like what you might be comfortable with. I know what I was maybe not comfortable with on paper, but watching it on screen, I'm like, yep, that's this show. That is what I'm here for. I'm here for just all of these dark comedic moments that you just don't see coming. And, there are times when the show gets a bit formulaic. There are times when it stretches some of the satire to the point of like, okay, like we get it. You can maybe do a different chord on this guitar and that would be great for everybody. But that's okay, because I do think that the show, when it does take its breathing room, it uses that time in this season to advance the characters in a way that was missing from the first season. I think there's much better character development here. I think Kimiko in particular is actually given like really like motivation that is less fish out of water and more of like there's agency in the character, more agency, I should say. Her stakes are a little bit different, and she kind of gets like an Inigo Montoya sort of subplot that is it's something, and I wish I could say more. And I gotta say, probably my favorite thing of the satire, because I did just criticize the satire a bit, but I do have to really praise that they just took the piss out of Avengers Endgame and Captain Marvel in a way that I found pretty satisfying. As somebody who really liked the Avengers Endgame and enjoyed Captain Marvel, yeah, this show definitely was watching those movies and was like, ha, okay, we can definitely make fun of that. And that's the thing I like about the show, is it can make fun of things that I like, and I am still all about it. And this is also one of those shows, like, there are shows I watch very passively where I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm watching this, you know, worst case, I'm playing like Animal Crossing in the background or something like that. I'm not really paying attention. Most of the time, that's not the case. Most of the time I am engaged, but you know, I'm not excited about the show. I'm not thinking about the show all the time. In this case, that was so different. I was chatting about this show as much as I could with other people who were watching it at the time. Shout out to Charlie Ridgely from comicbook.com, who put up with all of my Twitter messages. It was like, Charlie, what episode are you on? Are you on episode 8 yet? Did you see it? Did you see it, Charlie? He's like, no, John, no. Sorry, Charlie. But yes, I really, really enjoy this show. It's one of my favorite superhero shows on TV right now. I don't think I've enjoyed a superhero show on this kind of level in quite a while. Not since like the early goings of The Flash. As much as I love Watchmen and how that show just packs a wallop in storytelling, I still look at it. It scratches like a totally different itch. It scratches like the cerebral part of me that really wants to analyze superheroes in a serious way. The Boys isn't serious. It's goofy. It's fun. But it's also like seriously dark. So that combination of things makes this such a fun companion piece to some of the other superhero shows that have come out in recent memory. Sure, Watchmen is still the gold standard in my opinion. I think that it's hard to measure up. And hey, that's another show that didn't really hook me in the first episode. But like Watchmen, I think The Boys just gets better and better as it goes on, and it continues to just like shock me in all the best ways. So big thumbs up for me on The Boys season 2. I don't do grades for shows very often, and I'm still not going to. You know, when I did this for the Spool, I just put out a positive review. The funny thing is that Rotten Tomatoes is like, we can tell this is positive, so it's a fresh tomato. Cool, they got it right. If I had to rate it out of 10 though, which I think that's the scale I probably am okay with for shows. I like, you know, grades as well. But if I was going to put it on like a numbering system, this is a solid 8.5 out of 10 for sure. Big fan of The Boys. I hope you all enjoy it once it hits Amazon Prime Video. I want to hear what everybody else has to say about it. So far I've looked and you know, most of the reviews are pretty positive, and some of the ones that are negative, pretty interesting perspectives. I would say seek those out as well. I think there's some interesting discussions to be had, specifically with episode 8. The very end is something that is extremely charged, and please don't spoil it in the comments for people who haven't seen it yet. But they kind of take it in a direction that is very relevant to today. That, yeah, wow, this show has some balls. Please subscribe to Cinemaholics Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just hang out here on YouTube. We're posting clips of all of our reviews. It'd be really cool if we could do more video content like this in the future. Hopefully the response to this is positive enough that we can warrant and justify that. It seems like it will be. I do enjoy doing videos. I've done it before for my other YouTube channel, John in Theory. And in this case, we're all stuck at home, so I have more time than ever to kind of put these things together once in a while. So let me know if you enjoy this format, if you have any tips or suggestions. I am a total novice and amateur, as you can obviously tell. All right. See you next time.